The United States and Canada have long been close allies and trading partners, sharing the world's longest undefended border. But on July 14, 2025, that relationship faces its greatest test, a trade war that's spiraling out of control. Just days ago, President Donald Trump shocked both nations by announcing a sweeping 35% tariff on nearly all Canadian goods, up from the already steep 25%. The new tariff, set to begin August 1st, leaves businesses and officials scrambling with little time to prepare. The move came despite Canada's recent concession, canceling a planned tax on big American tech companies, hoping to ease tensions. Instead, the White House doubled down, escalating the conflict and leaving many to question its true motives. For Canada, the tariff threatens its export-driven economy. For Americans, it means higher prices on essentials like lumber, aluminum, and energy. The economies of both nations are deeply intertwined, and this sudden decision has sent shockwaves through industries and households. Many now fear for their jobs, businesses, and the cost of everyday goods. The crisis is deepening, and as the August 1st deadline approaches, all eyes are on what happens next. The world is watching as two of the closest allies in history teeter on the edge of an economic showdown. The stakes have never been higher. What's driving this trade war? The White House points to two main issues. First, President Trump blames Canada for not stopping fentanyl smuggling into the U.S., framing the tariffs as a matter of national security. But official data shows less than 0.1% of seized fentanyl comes from Canada. Most comes from the southern border. Canadian officials call the accusation unfair and misleading. The second flashpoint, Canada's proposed 3% digital services tax on tech giants like Google and Amazon. The U.S. saw this as a direct attack on American companies and threatened to walk away from trade talks. In a bid for peace, Canada withdrew the tax plan, hoping to restart negotiations. Yet, just 2 weeks later, the U.S. announced the 35% tariff anyway. The reasons for the escalation remain murky, and many suspect deeper motives behind the White House's actions. The result: confusion, frustration, and a relationship at its breaking point. This crisis didn't appear overnight. It's the result of months of mounting tension. After the 2024 U.S. election, President Trump quickly signaled a tougher stance on trade, announcing a 25% tariff on Canadian and Mexican goods. The tariffs took effect in March 2025, triggering immediate backlash from Canada. Newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney called the tariffs a grave threat and vowed to defend Canadian interests. The conflict escalated. The U.S. slapped more tariffs on vehicles than doubled steel and aluminum tariffs. Brief hope emerged at the G7 summit, but talks collapsed over Canada's digital tax plan. Canada withdrew the tax and negotiations resumed, only to be derailed by Trump's July 11th announcement of the 35% tariff. Now, with the August 1st deadline looming, talks are frozen and the path forward is more uncertain than ever. The long-standing North American partnership is at risk. Both sides are digging in, and the economic fallout is just beginning. The world wonders if this rift can be healed. Canada isn't backing down. Ottawa has responded with dollar-for-dollar retaliation, targeting U.S. products like vehicles, steel, and food. But the strategy is nuanced. Canada paused some tariffs on essential U.S. goods to protect its own industries and consumers. The message is clear: Canada will defend itself, but won't self-sabotage. Beyond tit-for-tat tariffs, Canada is rethinking its economic future. The trade war has exposed its heavy reliance on the U.S. market. Prime Minister Carney is now aggressively pursuing new trade deals with the UK and European Union. The goal: open new markets, reduce vulnerability, and ensure Canada's long-term prosperity. This marks a fundamental shift in Canadian foreign policy. Diversification is no longer just a talking point, it's a necessity. Canada is signaling to the world that it won't be held hostage by a single trading partner. The search for new friends is on. The pain of this trade war is felt most acutely in U.S. states along the Canadian border. States like Montana, Maine, Vermont, and North Dakota rely on Canada for the vast majority of their imports, everything from raw materials to energy. In Montana, over 90% of imports come from Canada. In Maine, it's over 70%, including most heating fuel and gasoline. Vermont and North Dakota face similar dependence, with Canadian goods crucial for energy, agriculture, and manufacturing. The 35% tariff threatens to devastate local economies, drive up costs, and disrupt daily life. Many border state businesses are now in crisis mode, unsure if key goods will be exempt under the USMCA trade deal. Confusion reigns as leaders plead for clarity from Washington. For these states, Canada isn't just a neighbor, it's an economic lifeline. The uncertainty is fueling anxiety and political pressure. As the dispute drags on, border communities are bracing for the worst. The friendly border is turning into an economic wall. The rhetoric from both leaders has grown fierce. President Trump frames the tariffs as essential for American jobs and security, even suggesting on social media that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state, a comment that infuriated Canadians. Prime Minister Carney fired back, "Canada is not for sale." His words have become a rallying cry. Trump insists the tariffs are needed to fix what he calls an unfair trade relationship and threatens even higher tariffs if Canada retaliates. Carney counters that decades of free trade have benefited both nations, warning that a trade war will hurt Americans as much as Canadians. He frames Canada's response as a defense of sovereignty and fair trade, not aggression. Both leaders are digging in, with no sign of compromise. The public war of words is fueling nationalism on both sides. The stakes, economic and political, are enormous. Beyond politics, the trade war is hitting real people and businesses hard. In Canada, exporters face tariffs so high that many can't afford to sell to their biggest market, putting thousands of jobs at risk. Canadian families are feeling the pinch job losses, slower wage growth, and higher prices on U.S. goods due to retaliatory tariffs. The cost of living is rising and economic uncertainty is growing. In the U.S., especially in northern states, businesses that rely on Canadian materials are squeezed by higher costs. Builders, automakers, and manufacturers must either absorb the tariffs or pass them on to consumers, fueling inflation. American exporters are losing access to the Canadian market, leading to layoffs and lost sales. Farmers, winemakers, and small businesses are among the hardest hit. The trade war, meant to protect American jobs, is creating new economic pain for workers and families on both sides. Everyday life is getting more expensive, and the sense of security is slipping away. The longer the conflict drags on, the deeper the scars will be. Ordinary people are paying the price for a political standoff. The 2025 trade war has forced Canada to rethink its future. For decades, its economy depended on the U.S., but now diversification is the new priority. Canada is forging stronger ties with the UK and EU, aiming for long-term resilience and independence. The USMCA trade agreement faces a major review in 2026, but trust between the two countries is badly shaken. The foundation of North American cooperation is at risk. As the August 1st tariff deadline nears, there's no breakthrough in sight. Canada is looking beyond North America while the US risks losing its closest ally. The next months will decide whether this partnership can be saved, or if the continent is changed forever.